Hey, Brian, thanks again for taking some time after your talk this morning that was live to the community. Wanted to drill down a little bit on some of the issues that you brought up. I mean, the big news is Governor Kemp's announcement Monday about easing the restrictions and making a measured, I think was the word he used, opening to the state. What's your initial thoughts on the impact of Peachtree Corners?
Well, it's impacting every city and county in the state, no doubt about it. It's a statewide, phased and measured approach to easing restrictions. It does introduce some additional activity within certain business groups that we didn't have before. So this coming Friday, there will be the following types of businesses: nail and hair salon, massage therapy, bowling alley, right, tattoo parlor are going to be allowed to operate, right, as long as they meet certain other mitigating steps to and steps to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. So those mitigating steps would be some things we've talked about before, about no more than 10 people together, no closer than 6 feet apart. But in addition to that, there's components like screening customers or employees for fever and other things, to not sharing phones or equipment or desks or anything in the workplace. So those type of businesses. Gyms also are another one that on Friday will be able to operate. Churches will now be able to have in-person worship, and medical facilities are able to start scheduling elective procedures, right, not just emergent procedures.
Which is important, because I heard hospitals are at record vacancies actually, and there's one side of healthcare that's overwhelmed or at full capacity or near full capacity still, and then there's part of healthcare that's on unemployment right now.
That's correct. I mean, it's kind of weird sometimes to think about having a medical emergency, a medical pandemic, but a large section of the medical community is in trouble.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that is there has been this reservation of space within hospitals that's been such a premium that I believe that the state feels like that reservation of space is adequate, and so now they can start releasing some of the remaining capabilities to the elective side of the house instead of the emergent side.
I heard the governor say that even in Albany, which is the hardest hit area in our state, had definitely the most deaths per capita, if not deaths per area, actually, right, more than Atlanta, they're saying. But they're even taking patients from outside their immediate area right now because they have that much capacity now.
And so I think, we're at that point where it's the balancing act between the health of the overall society versus the economic health, right, of society. So the personal versus economic health, and that's a tough, I don't know of anybody who knows the answer.
No, I think it's the proverbial two-edged sword, because I reached out to a friend this morning who runs one of the local magazines, friend of both of ours, and he was saying the feedback he's getting, it's kind of 50-50 in the community out there. 50% are really happy with what the governor's doing. The other 50% are a little hesitant, like, whoa, this is too much. And I don't think there's anything any public official on any side can do right now that's not going to be met with some level of controversy and pushback.
You did make a good point, though, and that is, for those who don't agree with this decision, there's nothing that compels anybody to frequenting any of these establishments, right, any sooner than they want. What we didn't mention is on Monday, movie theaters and dine-in restaurants are able to open, again, as long as they maintain the 6 feet of distance and some of those other, mitigating measures. But if somebody is like, look, I'm not comfortable with going to a restaurant, currently, then don't.
Right.
I mean, certainly don't feel compelled to. So, you're right. It's, no decision is going to make everybody happy, just because we don't have the luxury of hindsight yet. We just don't know what's going to happen. It could be to where the shelter in place is the biggest public policy debacle ever, and it's a self-inflicted wound to our economy, or it could be that we didn't do it long enough and we have a second wave that could be even worse than the first one. We just don't know.
Yeah, that history is yet to be written.
It is.
And, I think one of the points I know the governor made, and I hear it a lot on television as well, is that, right now we have exposure when we go to the grocery store or we go to Walmart. I mean, they're taking measures. They're putting X's on the floor to stay 6 feet apart. But I know personally, I've been in local convenience store because we're media. We travel some. We have to fill up with fuel and things like that. And I'm telling people, could you give me a little bit of space here? Because especially, some of the younger folks and they're just not realizing the importance of what social distancing is. So I'm hoping that people continue to use good sense through all this. And like you said, if you're not comfortable, don't go out. Or if you go somewhere, definitely wear that mask or that face covering.
I do think that in Georgia, you're seeing an example of a state that has really been, probably the most aggressive and I think it's, a little bit of giving the benefit of the doubt to individuals and individual companies versus government telling everybody how to act. Whether that's right or wrong is to be determined, but I do think that here it's a little bit more of, look, let's give the benefit of the doubt to every individual out there to do the right thing, or to ask those around them to do the right thing and take the proper measures versus, using common sense versus government. But, sometimes there are people who, sometimes do need a little bit more, guidance.
Yeah.
And, you brought up young people. I mean, we were all there once, where you were young, you were 10 feet tall and bulletproof still, nothing can,
Right.
And
And they're smart too. They see the statistics. They know that the chance of them getting really
Correct.
sick, and they're not looking beyond their own self. They're not thinking about grandma at home or anything that they may.
Our biggest problem with enforcement here within the city has been in the assembly of people in the high school to early college age group.
Right.
And it wasn't that they were doing anything other than they were just more than 10 and closer than 6 feet. But yes, there was this whole, look, it's not going to affect me. It's this invisible thing.
Right.
That's not tangible. I mean, if we had a hurricane bearing down on us,
Right.
I guarantee the shelter in place order would be adhered to a lot with a lot less complaining than now, because you can see this
It's a tangible threat.
Whereas this, this intangible, this invisible threat, especially again when you're young, is just like, what they just got to understand is it may not pose a health threat to them, but they could be a carrier of it, and then it does pose a health threat specifically to the elderly population within the city, and that's the one that we've got to be very careful of exposing. And so just doing the right thing. But
well, one of the things I saw, and I don't mean to throw you a curveball here, but and you may not have had a chance to see this yet, but in the last couple of days, some studies have come out, from one in Los Angeles and one from Stanford, where they're saying that they think the level of people infected could be 40 to 85 times the number that's being reported. Have you seen that?
I have seen that, and again, for every study that you find, there's another study that'll show the exact opposite. So who knows whether
everybody
it's true or
marches
not.
out their experts, and they
Oh yeah. Now I hope that's true.
Yeah.
Because that would mean that A, a lot more people have gotten it than we know, and B, that means that resistance to it.
Yeah, and that number of people would provide a barrier for a second wave, right? Because there's going to be a lot less.
Correct. And so I hope that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
but we just won't know. Again, only time will tell whether those kind of things are true.
Well, I think that's the thing that people like our governor, like the various governors of the states, they're looking at all this information from multiple sources and trying to make the best informed decisions. But you're right. I mean, how do you make that decision? I mean, it's almost a lose-lose in the decisions you make.
Well, it is. I mean, again, the health, physical health of people and the economic health, there is a point in which the pendulum does swing. Mm-hmm. And so, I just don't know where that is. I don't know when anybody knows, because what we don't want to do is unnecessarily restrict our activities such that we create an economic, a depression that lasts for years or decades even.
Right.
But yet we also don't want to just be cavalier about things and be like, everything will be okay, and then all of a sudden have a pandemic where you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people dying from something that, so.
Let's pivot to something a little bit more positive. Let's talk about the steps the city's taken, specifically with Curiosity Lab and the infrastructure that you're putting in here and have put in here, and how that's positioning the city for the future. I know that you've been interviewed by several big media outlets over the last couple of days. Tell me what they're asking. Tell me the status of what's going on at Curiosity Lab.
Well, it's interesting. I have been asked recently, despite the fact that I don't have MD or PhD after my name, of whether or not 5G caused COVID-19. But beyond that, what they're interested in is, we have not taken our foot off the gas when it comes to, no pun intended, when it comes to the lab or lining up companies that are going to want to use it, or that are interested in being a partner. What's stopping us is, of course, travel restrictions and some other things. But when those are lifted, we're going to see a new wave. And again, it's all about activity. And so in an environment that is going to be hard as it is, anything that we can do to help improve our chances of either retaining, expanding, or attracting business here is going to be a blessing. I mean, look, if it wasn't for Curiosity Lab, we would have 300 less jobs and 140,000 square feet of empty office space that were filled within the lab since Curiosity Lab became, a reality. And so if it wasn't for that, that would be just less economic activity.
It could be even worse, probably more vacancies, because surrounding communities are putting up more and more industrial space and live workspace, and you had to take these measures really to stay competitive.
I mean, agreed. And, we have partnerships with some really big companies that are prepared to also continue to invest. I mean, Georgia Power, which is a Southern company, is, not going anywhere because they're essentially a, monopoly when it comes to power in Georgia. So they're not going to go anywhere. We have a partnership with, what is now, or actually what on May 1 will be T-Mobile, was Sprint. And the merger of T-Mobile and Sprint has created a Fortune 40 company. I mean, one of the 40th largest companies in the world. We have a formal partnership here.
Right, that's amazing.
With them, and so we hope that their resources.
They actually have an office over in Curiosity Lab.
They do. They have 2 employees that are permanently, operating out of our innovation center, and our hope is the resources they bring to bear will help again generate activity. So any little advantage we can have over the next, hopefully not too long, but over the next period of time is going to be critical, because we're getting ready to get into some difficult economic times.
Well, I know that you guys had this vision several years ago about really moving into America 2.0, even though that's getting thrown around a lot with this COVID-19 crisis, that's pushing us faster towards that. I've been reading some articles, autonomous vehicles, it's been a little slow to adapt. I think about 12% of the community at large across the country are like really excited about autonomous vehicles, and that's changing a lot with now they're talking about automated deliveries, and they're starting to see there's such an adaptation. Even of Amazon.com, a lot of people still enjoy their bricks and mortar shopping, which they should, and we hope they continue that because we need that for small business. But also people are understanding the convenience of that kind of delivery and what possibly drones could do in the near future. We've seen, here, the different kind of carts, even the scooters are talking about being able to do deliveries remotely. And I think that's something that our bricks and mortar folks are already, with Uber Eats and different things, they're partnering with delivery already. I just see a continued partnership between retail and that automated, that autonomous delivery system.
I mean, we do too. And again, we're not the innovators. We're not the research institutions or the OEMs. but we do provide the environment for them to come in and create new, technologies, or to test new, or to perfect and enhance new technologies. And so we have a front row seat.
Right.
And we are seeing what you just said, which is, we've got companies that are really looking to do more of an arm's length approach to certain things. Mm-hmm. And, prior to the pandemic, it was probably driven by saving cost. Mm-hmm. Because if you can have a vehicle operate on its own without a human in it, you're saving on, personnel costs. Now it's potentially just you're not wanting to interact with other humans. And so there's definitely some of that going on. I think we're seeing a little bit more of the teleoperated component, mm-hmm. where it's still a human, but the human is remote.
Right.
And it's operating, a vehicle through a, wireless signal. And but yet you're not, again, having people interact with each other. So sky's the limit. But right now there's a big push for people to get stuff, pushed to them instead of them having to go out and get it.
Right. One of the ways I've been thinking about how to look at Curiosity Lab, and of course we worked on the video that you had us do for your Barcelona speech, and then of course it's on the website now. But really, Curiosity Lab, this whole tech park area, it's really like a technical playground, really, for companies where you come. I think of maybe a sports complex where you got a playground, you got sandbox and the monkey bars for the kids, you have the soccer field, you have the baseball field and all that. And really the city's providing a playground, for people at various levels of technology to come, and whatever sport, whatever activity you want to do from a technological point of view, come here and test it, in a real world environment, and it's choose your own adventure here. And because you guys have the sensors, you have the charging coils that are going in the road, you have, incredible camera system here where you can track things, you can monitor your testing, you have an autonomous vehicle lane, 3 miles loop, here that interacts with real intersections, real cars, real pedestrians, real cyclists. I mean, I just see this being a really important destination here in the near future.
Well, we've tried to create that environment that it's almost like playing, golf. To play golf, you got to go to where there's a golf course.
Right.
And we're hoping that we've created something similar to where if people want to do certain things, they have to come to us because you can't just do it anywhere.
Right.
And by doing so, we get that activity. So, yeah, we've heard it called the Disneyland of tech.
Yeah.
We've, had it called a sandbox where all the toys in it. I mean, but yes, your analogy is correct. We're, we've created a living laboratory, and we've basically provided all the Bunsen burners and the beaker tubes, right, and all that kind of stuff. And then we just said, come here and do your research and testing and whatever here.
And it costs zero.
We don't care what you're doing, just do it here.
And it costs zero for a company to come here and test. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, short of them being here for long periods of time in our innovation center, that may,
there may
more
be
than
some...
a month. Yeah, there may be some, but no, it's not a pay to play. And so you can come here, and that's why our hope is by not charging directly, we are going to get more activity and maybe more innovation here, because companies that couldn't afford to be here if we were charging rent for the use of the facility will be able to come here because we're not charging for that.
Yeah, so you're looking at those 3 kids from Caltech or Stanford, to bring their next widget over here.
Right.
And test it out.
And they don't have the money to, if we were renting track space, they don't have the money to do that.
They're not going to be able to afford $5,000 a day to shut a track down for their personal use.
Right. And so this way we hope, and maybe it's our little contribution to the evolution of technology of making this available free of charge. But again, hopefully our local businesses and hotels and others are the ones who really benefit. And that's what makes Peachtree Corners the community that it is. It's not city government. It's the people who live, work, and play here. And so for every restaurant that gets a few more customers than would happen if they weren't here for Curiosity Lab, or a few more hotel rooms, or a couple of houses that might be purchased or rented because
Right.
jobs are created here. That's where we win.
Yeah, awesome. Now we're doing a program called Color Our Heroes. This is the second week now. We showed the new picture. Tell me your thoughts on that.
So, Color Our Heroes is an initiative in which, you guys at Titan in the city, we were talking about ways that we might be able to both recognize some of the professions that are out there and have not seen any kind of a decrease in their, operations because they are a critical part of society, but and so show our appreciation to them and do so in a way that maybe kids,
Right.
who are at home, kids especially, could be anybody, who are at home, and if they're anything like my kids, are constantly wanting more screen time.
Yeah.
That maybe it's a productive way for them to do something beyond that. And so you guys created some, sketched pages, coloring pages,
Right.
and we decided to do 4 weeks and recognize 4 kind of groups of professions. The first one were medical and public health professionals, and that just finished today. And then we just transitioned into a new one, and that's going to be the transportation, the sanitation, and the utility workers that are out there keeping our grid and our road and and our community clean. And they're doing it just like they did before. They're doing it despite the fact that they're out there maybe interacting with people who do have the virus, but
Right.
they're critical, and we want to recognize them. And so, doing so, it recognizes them by both having somebody color it, maybe taping it to your front window or your front door or something like that, or posting it on one of our social media platforms, and and hashtagging Color Our Heroes PTC or Peachtree Corners GA or Peachtree Corners, and letting that audience know that you appreciate those workers. And then we're having a random drawing every year for those who did participate.
Every week.
Or every week,
Yeah,
of those who participated.
Right.
And by submitting, letting us know either by direct communication through the social media site, like a instant message, or through an email to info@peachtreecornersga.gov.
Yeah, a lot of people have been emailing them because a lot of people have private Instagrams, which we understand. A lot of
Yep.
people with their kids and everything are going to be protective. So,
But if you let us know that you did participate and what it looks like, then you'll be eligible for the drawing. And so we've got gift certificates purchased from local Peachtree Corners businesses that
Right.
we'll give out, and our way of, again, contributing to the local economy and recognizing those who participated. So hopefully there's some pride that goes along with people both participating and for the local businesses to get some benefit from the gift cards.
okay, I want to go back. We got another initiative, if you will. We were going to have a photo contest in the spring. Obviously, that's gotten pushed. Like you said, maybe if they can push the Tour de France off, we can push our photo contest off. So fair enough.
Yep.
Fair play, as they'd
That's
say
right.
over in Europe. But the photo contest, I guess when things start easing up, maybe we start that again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so, one of the things that you came to the city with, which the city found, very enticing, was to create an army of content creators.
All right.
And because content created that has Peachtree Corners as a part of that content is always going to be best done by the people who, again, live, work, learn, and play here.
Right.
And so you just, you offered to help train that army of content creators by offering classes on photography, videography, so on and so forth. And you've been doing that for, like 2 years now?
Yeah, it's approaching 2 years now, yep.
And there is an army out there. And so
There
what
is.
we had wanted to do was activate the army by having a contest for them to take what they've learned from you guys and go out and create content under certain categories, and then we would have some winners. But we were about ready to go and, kind of announce that contest, and this pandemic happened. So
Right.
it probably wasn't necessarily as good time to do it right now. But as soon as the travel restrictions and the shelter in place are lifted, we will do that. It might be a good diversion.
Yeah.
And a good way to show
and maybe
off.
people, if they're out in the park hiking or
Yep.
with they might be able to get some great pictures of their kids, or maybe they're out on a bike ride and they stop and take a photograph. And we're looking for both. I mean, there's great photos taken with iPhones, so it doesn't, I want to encourage people, you don't have to have a $10,000 camera to enter this contest, and there's no fee to enter this contest. We're going to have it judged by professional photographers, that are unrelated, don't know who the people are. It's going to be judged, strictly on, how well it represents the themes that we're going to have categories for. So I'm really excited about that. I think, I'm looking for that unicorn image that somebody comes to, that iconic image that you guys, may put front and center, for years to come.
We will, not may. I mean, we've got lots of opportunities for photos to be shown off by the city, whether it's in, the big screens in the lobby of City Hall, or maybe the big screen out at the town green,
Right.
or on our website, or in the background of, certain things. I mean, lots of opportunities. So we're excited about what we could, some of the imagery, because we appreciate it, but we take it sometimes for granted because you're around it all the time. It's easy to, but looking at it through the lens of other people, is pretty cool.
Brian, thank you so much for your time. I know the community, I'm watching the stream that comes in. People are thanking you for keeping them updated. We had a lady that used to live here. She lives in Lawrenceville now, and she's tuning into the Peachtree Corners broadcast just because she gets real, just information. It's not politicized. It's
raw.
Yeah, it's raw. It's just like, here, look, we're wondering about this ourselves, folks. It's not coming out of a spin room from some media department. It's just raw. And I thought that was really special the other day when I said, I saw this lady from Lawrenceville. She goes, I tune into your message, because I get real information. So I think that's a great compliment for what you're doing and what the city's doing. And I want to thank the mayor and council for, supporting all of this and being the people they are, and promoting Curiosity Lab and all the different initiatives you have for the city. So thank you so much again for your time. I know you got to get to another meeting right now. So.
Well, and thanks for helping us get that message out there by, providing the expertise, equipment, and oftentimes the, ability to, disseminate that information at a scope that we wouldn't be able to do if we were doing it ourselves.
Well, we're very grateful for the opportunity, and it's a real honor to support this community. So many bright, wonderful, warm, caring people in this community. It's just great to work here. So
it is. I agree. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.